Okay, we're ready to get started again. Thank you for making the trip out to Soul Food on this wet night. If you have some poems to read, thank you. And if you're here to listen, thank you for that too. We have about half a dozen people on our open mic, so it's a little short tonight. But I have a feeling they'll be really good. Our question of the month is the farthest you've ever traveled. And I'm going to spring this question on our two featured readers. What's the farthest you guys have ever traveled? Taiwan.
The farthest I've ever traveled was when I was living in the Midwest, and I traveled to Seattle and then drove up to Vancouver. And I heard someone who was not mentally all together talking to himself, but he was talking to himself in French. And it was the most awesome thing I've ever heard.
So going to Vancouver isn't that far unless you're from the Midwest.
Yes,
Yeah. Yes. Excellent. Thank you. I think I would have to say Australia. Our first reader has traveled to Seoul, Korea. Gabriel Song? Sanj? Okay. Gabriel Sanj, please welcome her.
I'm a bit shorter than the other speakers. I'm originally from the Pacific Northwest. I was born and raised here, and I graduated from Bothell High School, University of Washington, and sometime later I moved to Tennessee, where I've been for the last 26 years. And I was looking for a way that I might be able to facilitate moving here, so I've come for a visit on 10 days. And in October of last year, I published my first book of 7 freestyle poems and 22 drawings. And the drawings are, you can see them around the room on various media, some print boards and some cloth paper. I'm going to read from the title poem for the book, which is called Whippoorwill Calls. There are a couple things I wanted to mention about that, and that is that my father used to take my brother, sister, and me to the rough of Inglewood Golf and Country Club. And besides collecting golf balls to sell back to golfers, he would imitate wild birds. And it was through that I came to have a love for aviary. And it pops up in my poetry a lot. There are 2 other aspects to that. Today, after 26 years, I drove close to the house that we used to live across from the 4th Fairway, and quite surprised to find that where we used to be able to just walk across through the rough when the golfers weren't there and on the course, it now has a chain link fence and 3 strands of barbed wire across the top. And there's one other aspect to the poem that I'm going to mention, and that is I talk about a counselor that I would seek out for just a one-on-one conversation. And he's actually a Presbyterian minister that was new to town in Mississippi. And when you're new to town in a Mississippi rural community, sometimes people are a bit suspicious of you. And he saw there was a need for a food pantry in our community. And so he wanted to get that started. And I was a journalist working at the local newspaper, and I began covering and writing about him. And eventually he garnered the support of the community, and they have now not only a main food pantry, but a satellite one. The name of the poem is Whippoorwill Calls. Dawn broke through gray skies, and a soft wind graced my cheek as I heard from a wooded thicket, "Whippoorwill, whip poor Will, whippoorwill." Taut facial muscles relaxed, and a smile rolled across my face as I sank onto the doorstep, listening. When last did I hear a whippoorwill call? When we played kick the can on the fourth fairway by moonlight. Where have I been in the interim? Everywhere and nowhere, yet distant from this songbird. Unseen on nocturnal outings, your colors blend with leaf debris as you hunt insects. I do not need to see you to know that you are there. Hearing you is enough. You remind me of the mystery of life and the joy in hearing, but not just songbirds. Now, following what is heard can be tricky, and sometimes the way is as clear as a mountain stream. Other times, it's more like trudging through muddy bottom. Once mired, I sought counsel from one who has brought light where formerly there was none. In an array of opportunities, he said, if one chooses a particular path, other journeys are necessarily excluded. Some are higher, calling for greater commitment, yet bringing greater reward. Infinite possibilities danced before me. Familiar, limited choices no longer held sway. I am following and can see the rocks of varied colors as the water ripples over them. The second poem is called Courtship. Let us fly alongside wings of Canada geese to San Francisco's Legion of Honor. Let the Danyad's marbled contours imprint a delicate form in your palm. Take a hunk of clay, carve out the hollows, the planes of bone and muscle. In your fingers, ply the curves, the crooks, between my ribs and groin. Sense the shapes, explore shadows. Let your soul soar. Be seen and ignore the tight-faced grimaces of others who would stifle. Heed only the quickening as you watch. Geese in flight, loose your feet from the ground. Feel motion's grace, lift and rise. This last poem is a very short poem. It was written this summer, and it's from a found text. I belong to a writers group in the Memphis area, and the found text is you find something and you take, like I took another book, and it was the National Audubon Society Field Guide to North American Insects and Spiders, and you create from the words a poem. And so this is my poem. A miracle of nature. Beauties they are, with orange-tipped, translucent wings spanning to 3 inches. Stout-bodied with concentric stripes, they belt their songs, and an audible trill pierces the summer day and night. 1,000 small engines pulse endlessly. 2 or more falter, dropping to the ground, while others drone on in an unrelenting cadence. More than a decade-long life cycle, large-eyed adults live merely weeks. Spending most of their time as nymphs, they burrow into soil, feeding on deciduous tree roots, inhabiting meadows, forests, and prairies. At 13 or 17 years, ripened, the nymphs crawl to an upright support, split their skin, and climb, fulfilling their destiny as cicadas. Thank you.
So do you think you're going to be able to move here? Well, please come back if you can. A couple of announcements before we go on. The next Soul Food Poetry Night is coming up a week earlier than usual. Instead of the third Thursday, it'll be the second Thursday. So on October 8, and it will feature Carol Levin and Annette Spalding Convey. So please come back for that. I think Carol has a new. I know Carol has a new book. I'm not sure about Annette. October 8. And then in November, the readers are Judy Kleinberg and Luther Allen. And I also want to remind you about the Redmond Association of Spoken Word over at the Old Redmond Schoolhouse Community Center. The next reading is Friday, September 25, so coming up soon, and it will feature our annual hosting of the Jack Straw Writers. And so we have Claire Johnson, Laura Daw, and Kevin Kraft, who's also the curator for the series this year, and he's also the editor of Poetry Northwest. So if you want more information about that, let me know. Our next reader tonight has visited Paris, France. Amy Schrader.
Thank you. One of the first things you learn as a poet in a poetry class with Mike, actually, took his class as well. So you don't write poems about your cat. I'm going to read 2 cat poems for you tonight. It's really, I wrote a whole series of poems about Schrodinger's cat, actually. And Schrodinger was a quantum physicist who proposed a thought experiment about quantum mechanics, and I can't really explain. He was really trying to prove the absurdity of quantum mechanics, in which a cat is placed in a box and may or may not be killed, and therefore is both simultaneously dead and alive until the box is opened and the observer seals its fate. So, sinister. You say, a cat is placed inside a box. I'm curious. It's actually a question of agency. Someone specific must do the placing with a specific hand, the left or right, and for specific reasons. We hazard guess after guess, bad luck or malice, a bait and switch. The outcome is unclear. The cat, at best, misled and locked away, and if it's worse than that, a single photon and the gun. Ironic that the cat's named Dexter, but we don't cry. It's only a dry run, a thought experiment. The left hand loves what the left hand does. The rest, derivative. Action at a distance. And we are both in the same place, even when apart. We interact, fly off the handle, opposite directions, and here's the spooky part. My standoffish mood catches you off guard or up. Our spin determines us, a measurement of non-locality. Locals at the pub, or regulars, natives, our temperaments mirrors, mechanics, a many worlds interpretation. We're not unique in any way. Our position in the field predicted and predictable. Technique as wave and particle, lover, enemy, easy to affect you. Call it chemistry. And I'll read one more, and it's called, You Might Think This Is What Happens. And the epigraph is like the only joke that I know. And it's, Schrodinger's cat walks into a bar and doesn't. It's actually a really funny joke. You might think this is what happens. You're talking probabilities and how the act of observation changes us. As we argue, the cat meows to be let out. It's like a message from the ether. He loves me not. Rather, I love you means I hate you. But at the very least, we can agree it's both at the same time. A pas de deux, particular to coexistence. Wave hello. I mean goodbye. We roll the dice each time we see each other. Let's behave in stranger ways. Pick your poison, break the ice with jokes we think are pertinent. A marriage? Indeterminate.
Thank you, Amy. Next, we have Brent, who didn't answer the question, but maybe you can tell us the farthest you've ever traveled. Brent.
Costa Rica once.
Okay, awesome. Come on up.
In high school. Read to you for you can hang out though. What was your name again? Carissa. Yeah, go for it. You can hang out. That's the third poem. I have like a couple short ones. My last one will have an accompaniment from my lovely assistant Carissa in percussion. That's the third one. So
Do you have a particular beat in mind?
let's hang out. I gotta read two first, and then we'll do that.
Do you want to start reading or do you want me to start?
Just hold off for the first two. The first two. All right. So yeah, I wasn't expecting such a cultured, such a like refined culture, but I'll do my best. And Pluto, yeah. So I heard recently that Pluto, since the time it was deemed a planet, and to the time that it was stripped of its status, and up until now, it still hasn't completed one rotation around the sun. It's plodding along on its course, doing its duty, oblivious to our drama. Okay, so it's just like a kind of a little thought provoker. Our lives are but a wind in the heather, pushing it to and fro, and then vanishing without a trace, save for a token of change caused by its passing. And the heather itself, moved by a passing wind, it too shall pass. What then will be the legacy of a certain wind, and who will know its movements without the evidence of its passing? Okay, so this is called Eternal Love Lost. It's a little dark, just to warn you. All right. Rain is falling, never touching the ground. Love is calling, never making a sound. Fading life, unyielding skies, desperate hearts, anguished cries. Reaching up, leaves turn brown, searching roots, reaching down. Down and down, relentless pain. Down and down, not this again. Your skies are raining down their lies, while stars are falling from my eyes. Scorched earth, barren land, vicious cycle, wretched sand. Same result, ignore the pain, the definition of insane. We haven't seen a harvest for all these years, and we haven't seen our love for all these tears. 7 years of famine, drought, and blight. 7 years of winter, frozen, endless night. 7 years of pain and sadness. 7 years of rage and blame. 7 years of fear and madness. 7 years, they're all the same. Twin stars in an empty sky, never seeing eye to eye. We have made our final stand. Time to move to fertile land. There we'll have a chance to sow, seeds alone apart that know. They'll finally have a chance to grow from below the desert snow. Yeah, all right. Okay, so this is the last one. It's kind of rappy. I'm do my best. My first time. I'm not like a freestyler or anything. You just like, yeah, just kind of feel it for a second. It's like old like beatnik style. All right. The light through the leaves is sublime, arriving here from another place and time. Energy never dies, it only changes its reality. There is no finality, our illusions and a legality. Surrender your insanity, leave it on the bridge and reach the other side. Confide in an inexplicable force, divorce your separatist attitude. Elude yourself and attain a new level of awareness. In all fairness, it's your duty to the spirit. Read the Sanskrit on the inside of your forehead. White light bathed in deep red. Ancient symbols you can't understand. from forgotten lands. Let go of your hands and let them do and not do. They have nothing to do with you. They're not even yours. Death comes in fours. Surrender to your program before it's too late. This is your fate. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Teresa.
Is this your first time reading here? Yeah. Welcome. Special welcome to our first timers. Thank you. Next, and you went to Costa Rica, is that right? Is that what you said? So our next reader has Costa Rica written down as well. Please welcome Adina Hicks.
Well, this is my third time. And first I want to say happy birthday to my son, my oldest son, David. Happy birthday, David. I thought what a great night to be able to spend with my son and be able to share this with him. I've been developing music with my poetry, and I've been finding songs that go very well with the poetry. And tonight I'm going to do Tonight the Sky Was Weeping with I Can't Make You Love Me. Tonight the sky was weeping. Tonight the sky was weeping like the tears that wet my face for the loss of my one true love, a love that cannot be replaced. The singe of the loss burns through me, my body and my soul. The emptiness erodes my heart to expose I am not whole. 'Cause I can't make you love me if you don't. And you can't make your heart feel something that it won't. Here in the dark, in these final hours, I will lay down my heart. I will feel the power, but you won't. No, you won't. 'Cause I can't make you love me if you don't. When you don't. You were the song I used to sing, the air I loved to breathe, the muse that inspired my every thought. You were and still are the world to me. For now the tears still flow, and the sky continues to weep. The song is just an empty silence. My heart continues to seek. And I will give up this fight, 'cause I can't make you love me if you don't. And you can't make your heart feel something that it won't. Here in the dark, in these final hours, I will lay down my heart. I will feel the power, but you won't. No, you won't. 'Cause I can't make you love me if you don't. When you don't. Bring back the sun to me, the sky of ocean blue, the joy and peace of my world come from loving you. you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to read who hasn't signed up, perhaps? Go ahead. Come on up.
I'm not that tall either. Finding myself really emotional right now because my Kiki was my first poetry teacher as well. And for those of you who have fallen in love with academia for years and years and years and years and kind of make a career out of it, you collect your favorite teachers along the way. And he was right up there at the top the whole time. I took my first class with him in 1996, and I think we parted ways a couple years later, and then I asked him for a letter of reference about 10 years ago, and that was the last time until tonight that we've seen one another. This poem was written by a part of me who's really lived really hard and just wanted to write a deep felt, unromantic love letter to one of my very favorite teachers in the whole wide world. It's called For You, Platitudes. I remember when I'd come to you, pen to paper, you and me, for me to be and you to see. I revealed to you my truths of truths, the original me for you to see only. But everything is cliche, you'd say. Use your pain, feel it, peel it back. Don't deprecate, demand it, command it, bait it, but don't wait for it. Those voices, only noises. Resistance, eternal, ponder the wormhole, prepare, be aware. They aren't your friends. Don't depend on them. Fight it out, write it out, follow, don't wallow. It's not for them to see who you be, who we be, you and me. Originality is the goal, but on the whole, reality equals platitudes. Well, shit, I said. Can we tame the pain, find the grain and fight it, drip the grind and ignite it, siphon it, this inauthentic mind about to be pried open, but then, what good are paper and pen when they're dripping, slipping over mind matter? Help me find me, help me see me, help me bleed me of inanity. I believed you. Of all people, you. You could do. You could see. Could swim the drip, sip, not suck the pain from me. I stood without you. No idea what to do. Desperation, not preparation. Destitution, not resolution. I chased the beats. Drank up the streets, lived in heartbreak and poverty and whiskey, cloaked and lonely, whatever high happened to be there at the time. That life was mine. Platitudes. That was years ago, not when we were we, after, actually. I pried open my mind's eye, wider and wider, tried to hide in there, tried to find you. But you were busy too, probably with platitudes. The times I wanted to tell you but didn't know how to, or where to, or if I dared to, once I finally got to see you and speak to you, greet you with a hug and tell you I love you. Thank goodness that was then. That was a when, revisited only from time to time, just passing through now, in a different when now. Back to paper and pen now, back to a new then now, back to a new future with you, sir, back to a new dawn now, back to you and a new day. Don't really care if it's cliche, platitudes. Oh fuck, how I've missed you.
I said all that shit up.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, well, it's okay. Here are two poems of mine. I'm not sure if this first one is a poem. It's just the thing. It's a sentence I ain't never said to the police. Sorry for speeding, officer, but my child's beer almost spilled on my handgun while I was sexting with the underage sadist mistress of the former head of the Aryan Brotherhood. Whatever that is, it's a thing. Maybe this is a poem. It's called Snake. Imagine yourself a snake. Lie on the floor where you are. Take off your arms, even your shoulders. Resign yourself to the permanent loss of opposable thumbs. Fuse your legs together down to your feet. Lose even your hips and weave your extended torso across the floor, slithering, flagging your toeless tail in the same air where you extend your forking tongue. Now, write a poem. Do not add legs. I think we could all be so fortunate to have a memorable teacher in our lives, and your poem reminded me, last month there was a memorial service for my English teacher from high school, and he was 93, and he died in July, and they had the memorial service last month. It was in Alberta. And there was 5 minutes in one class, in a grade 10 class, where he talked about haiku. I'd never heard of it before. And I've now written probably 15,000 of them and published 4,000 or 5,000 of them, I don't know. And have been very involved with haiku poetry, with organizations and writing book reviews and setting up events and so on. And I've always liked short poetry and gravitated to haiku naturally. But I guess that's my little tribute to my teacher as well. And I wish I'd had a chance to tell. I'd lost touch with him. I wish I'd had a chance to tell him how many poems I'd written, thanks to his introducing me to that short form. So I envy your chance to pay tribute tonight. Thank you, and I'll end with the poem I began with tonight. This is Roberto Ascalon. The poem is Cradle. When I donate blood, I always ask the technician if I can hold the bag afterwards. What is it like to 1 quart of me? What does it feel like? I want to know. They never let me. It is against regulations to hold yourself in that way. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and we'll see you next month. Good night.